Breaking. King Charles just confronted President Biden in front of world leaders over British sovereignty. And what Joe Biden said back was so brutal that Keir Starmer's own cabinet is now plotting an emergency meeting to contain the fallout. We're talking about a clash that could shatter the special relationship forever. And what happened in the 47 minutes after this confrontation will shock you to your core. If you want to see how this diplomatic disaster unfolds, hit that subscribe button right now, because what we're about to reveal has the Foreign Office in complete meltdown. Here's what sparked the constitutional crisis that nobody saw coming. At 3:17 p.m. yesterday, during a private G7 security briefing at Lancaster House, King Charles did something that broke 70 years of royal protocol. The king wasn't supposed to be there at all. These meetings are strictly for heads of government, not constitutional monarchs. But Charles walked in unannounced, dismissed his security detail, and sat down directly across from President Biden. His message was crystal clear, and multiple sources inside that room confirm every word. The atmosphere changed instantly. Senior diplomats described the tension as suffocating. But Biden wasn't having any of it. What the president did next violated every rule of diplomatic courtesy and respect for the British crown. Biden didn't just respond, he attacked. According to 3 separate officials who witnessed the exchange, Biden leaned forward, locked eyes with the king, and delivered words so cutting that Foreign Secretary David Lammy physically flinched. "Your Majesty, with all due respect, Britain doesn't set American foreign policy. Not anymore. Those days ended about 80 years ago." The room went silent. Charles's face, normally composed and diplomatic, turned visibly red, his jaw tightened. Palace insiders later described him as angrier than they'd seen in decades. What triggered this unprecedented confrontation? Biden's administration had just announced a massive military agreement with the European Union that completely bypassed Britain. No consultation, no warning, no respect for the special relationship that's defined Anglo-American relations since Churchill. The deal would station 50,000 additional U.S. troops across France, Germany, and Poland, while reducing the American military footprint in Britain by 40%. For Charles, this wasn't just poor diplomacy. It was a deliberate humiliation of British sovereignty and a betrayal of the alliance that won 2 world wars. The king's response was measured, but devastating. "Mr. President, Britain stood with America when the towers fell. We fought beside you in Iraq and Afghanistan. We bled with you, and this is how you repay that loyalty? By treating us like a second-tier ally while elevating nations that questioned your leadership at every turn." Sources say Biden's expression hardened. The president, known for his short temper behind closed doors, wasn't about to back down to anyone, not even the King of England. "We appreciate Britain's contributions," Biden replied coldly, "but strategic decisions are made based on current realities, not historical sentiment. The EU represents 450 million people and the world's second-largest economy. That's where American interests lie now." Those words landed like bombs. The diplomatic language couldn't hide the brutal truth. America was downgrading Britain. The special relationship, the foundation of British foreign policy for generations, was being dismantled in real time. And Charles had just been told in the most humiliating terms possible that Britain no longer mattered to Washington. But wait, because what Biden said next was even more devastating. According to a senior British intelligence officer who was monitoring the meeting remotely, Biden continued with a statement that has since been classified by both governments. "Your military bases on our soil are a courtesy, not a necessity. Your intelligence sharing, while appreciated, is no longer irreplaceable. France and Germany offer us everything Britain does, plus direct access to continental markets and a population that actually wants American partnership." The intelligence officer, speaking on condition of anonymity, told The Times that at least 4 people in that room gasped audibly. This wasn't just diplomacy. This was America openly threatening to dismantle the entire architecture of British-American cooperation. The nuclear submarine program, the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, the joint military operations, everything Britain has built its post-empire identity upon was suddenly on the table. And here's where it gets worse. Biden allegedly pulled out a folder containing economic projections that showed Britain's declining GDP contribution to NATO, its shrinking defense budget, and its diminished global trade position post-Brexit. He slid the folder across the table toward King Charles with one final comment that multiple sources confirm. "These are the realities we're dealing with, Your Majesty. Perhaps Britain needs to decide if it wants to be a serious partner or a nostalgic museum." The king's hands, witnesses reported, were shaking as he looked at those documents. Not from fear, but from pure rage at being lectured like a schoolboy about his own nation's capabilities. Meanwhile, British veterans who served alongside American forces in Helmand Province in Basra, in every hellhole from the Balkans to the Middle East, are watching this betrayal with absolute horror. James Fletcher, a 64-year-old former Royal Marine who lost his leg in Afghanistan, recorded a message that's now gone viral across British social media. "I fought with Americans. I bled with Americans. Some of my brothers died saving American lives. And this is how Biden repays us by spitting on our sacrifice." That clip has 4.7 million views and counting. The comments section is flooded with thousands of veterans sharing similar stories, similar rage, similar betrayal. These are men and women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who believed in the alliance, who trusted America, who thought the bond was unbreakable. While they struggle with PTSD, with disabilities, with the aftermath of wars they fought for the special relationship, Biden casually discards Britain like yesterday's newspaper. The contrast is so visceral, so emotionally devastating that even lifelong Labour supporters are questioning whether Starmer has any backbone left. We're talking about the backbone of British identity, the generation that grew up believing Britain and America were inseparable partners. And Biden just told them that partnership is over. Then something happened that nobody could have predicted. Keir, who had been sitting silently throughout this entire exchange, finally spoke. But instead of defending British interests, instead of standing with his king, Starmer did something that has stunned the entire nation. He agreed with Biden. At 3:52 p.m., with Charles still visibly furious, Starmer addressed the room with words that may end his political career. "The president makes a fair point," Starmer said carefully, glancing nervously between Biden and the king. "Britain must adapt to new realities. We can't live in the past. The EU relationship offers opportunities we need to explore." The silence that followed was deafening. Charles turned slowly to look at his prime minister. Multiple witnesses described the king's expression as one of complete disbelief, even betrayal. Biden, meanwhile, smiled. A small, satisfied smile that said everything. He'd just driven a wedge between the British crown and the British government, and he knew it. Palace insiders reveal that Charles left Lancaster House immediately afterward, refusing to participate in the scheduled reception. He didn't shake hands, didn't exchange pleasantries, didn't follow protocol. He walked out, climbed into his Bentley, and returned to Buckingham Palace in what aides describe as thunderous silence. The optics are absolutely catastrophic for Starmer. Within hours, the footage leaked. Not the private conversation, but video of Charles's abrupt departure, his visible anger, the complete breakdown of normal royal composure. And then came the revelation that changes everything. At 7:45 p.m. last night, an encrypted message appeared in a private WhatsApp group called Westminster Truth that includes over 200 MPs from all parties. The message contained a 14-second audio clip recorded secretly during the Lancaster House meeting. In it, you can hear Starmer's voice, slightly muffled but unmistakable, saying something to Biden after Charles left the room. "Don't worry about him, Mr. President. The monarchy doesn't control policy anymore. We'll manage the optics." The reaction was thermonuclear. MPs across the political spectrum are demanding Starmer's immediate resignation. Conservative MP Jacob Rees-Mogg called it the most treasonous statement by a British Prime Minister in modern history. Labour's own backbenches are in open revolt. One anonymous Labour MP told The Guardian, "He didn't just betray the king. He betrayed every principle Labour supposedly stands for. We're the party of British workers, British values, British sovereignty, and he just handed all of it to Biden on a silver platter." The audio clip has now been played on every major news channel, analyzed by voice recognition experts who confirm its authenticity, and shared millions of times across social media. Starmer's office issued a statement calling it doctored propaganda, but nobody believes them. The voice is his, the words are his, and the damage is catastrophic. The political earthquake that followed was instant and devastating. Within 90 minutes of the confrontation, Conservative leader Rishi Sunak issued a statement that cuts straight to the bone. Today, we witnessed a prime minister choose America's interests over Britain's dignity. Starmer's weakness has made us a laughingstock on the world stage. But that was just the opening salvo. Reform UK's Nigel Farage went nuclear, and his response has become the most shared political video in British history, with over 12 million views in 24 hours. Standing in front of a Union Jack, Farage delivered a speech that captured the fury sweeping across Britain. King Charles defended our nation. He stood up for British sovereignty, and Starmer stabbed him in the back to curry favor with a president who openly despises us. This isn't leadership. It's cowardice. The polls reflected the devastation immediately. An emergency YouGov survey showed Starmer's approval rating collapsed from 38% to 19% in a single afternoon. That's not a decline. That's a complete implosion. Labour's support in key constituencies dropped by double digits. In working-class areas across the north, the red wall that Labour fought so hard to reclaim support hemorrhaged to Reform UK. For the first time in modern polling history, Reform UK hit 31% nationally, ahead of both Labour at 23% and the Conservatives at 28%. Britain isn't just politically divided anymore. It's fractured beyond recognition. Inside number 10 Downing Street, the atmosphere can only be described as pure chaos. Ministers are shouting in hallways. Cabinet members are refusing to take calls. WhatsApp groups with names like Survival Strategy and Post-Starmer Planning have exploded with hundreds of messages plotting the Prime Minister's removal. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner reportedly confronted Starmer in his office at 6:30 p.m. yesterday. Their 40-minute meeting, described by aides as a screaming match, ended with Rayner storming out and immediately calling an emergency meeting with Labour's most senior MPs. Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who was in the room during the confrontation, has gone completely silent. No interviews, no statements, no social media posts. Senior Labour sources say Lammy feels personally humiliated by Starmer's weakness and is seriously considering resignation. Defense Secretary Grant Shapps allegedly told colleagues that Starmer doesn't have the spine to lead Britain through a garden party, let alone a constitutional crisis. The knives are out, and they're aimed squarely at the Prime Minister's back. Even more damaging, former Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair weighed in with a statement that was diplomatic in language, but brutal in meaning. Leadership requires defending national interests even when uncomfortable. History remembers those who stood firm, not those who accommodated decline. That wasn't advice. That was Blair writing Starmer's political obituary in real time. But here's the layer that could bring down not just Starmer, but the entire Anglo-American alliance. Leaked documents obtained by the Telegraph show that Biden's team knew exactly how this confrontation would play out. American diplomatic cables sent 3 days before the G7 meeting explicitly discuss managing British sensitivities and containing royal interference. One cable marked classified and sent from Secretary of State Antony Blinken's office contains a line that should terrify every British citizen. The UK must understand its diminished role in American strategic planning. If necessary, public clarification of this reality may accelerate their acceptance of post-Brexit limitations. Think about what that means. The Biden administration deliberately planned to humiliate Britain. This wasn't diplomatic miscommunication or cultural misunderstanding. This was calculated strategy designed to put Britain in its place. If these documents are authentic, and 3 separate intelligence sources confirm they are, then Biden didn't just insult King Charles accidentally. He meant every word. The American president came to London specifically to tell Britain it no longer matters. The optics of that revelation are absolutely devastating for the special relationship itself. But there's another document that hasn't been widely reported yet, and it's even more explosive. A memorandum from the National Security Council dated 2 weeks ago outlines what Biden's team calls Operation Realignment. The The memo leaked to several British newspapers simultaneously this morning details a systematic plan to reduce American military cooperation with Britain while expanding partnerships with France, Germany, and even Spain. The document lists specific joint programs to be terminated, including a £3.2 billion fighter jet development project and a shared naval base initiative in Scotland. But here's the part that's causing absolute panic in Westminster. The memo explicitly states that these changes should be implemented without advanced consultation with British leadership to avoid lengthy negotiations and emotional objections. They planned this betrayal down to the smallest detail. They knew Britain would object, so they decided not to tell us until it was too late. Senior military officials are privately calling this the biggest strategic disaster since Suez. One retired general speaking anonymously to the Daily Mail put it bluntly. "We've been treating America as our closest ally while they've been treating us as an impediment to their European ambitions. We were fools." Meanwhile, Nigel Farage isn't just capitalizing on this disaster. He's rewriting British politics in real time. While Starmer hides in Downing Street and Biden flies back to Washington, Farage has launched a nationwide Defend Britain's Dignity tour that's drawing massive crowds in every city. In Manchester yesterday, 15,000 people packed into the arena to hear him speak. In Birmingham tonight, the venue sold out in 47 minutes. His message is simple, powerful, and resonating with millions. They betrayed our king. They betrayed our veterans. They betrayed Britain itself. And in the next election, we will make them pay. Reform UK membership applications have crashed the party's website twice in 24 hours. Small donations are flooding in from working-class Britons who feel abandoned by both Labour and the Conservatives. For the first time in British political history, Farage looks like a genuine prime minister in waiting, not just a protest candidate. The establishment thought they destroyed him with Brexit. Instead, they've created a political force that could sweep away the entire British political order. And through all of this, one terrifying reality becomes clearer by the hour. This isn't just about one confrontation or one diplomatic disaster. Britain's entire position in the world is collapsing. The next 72 hours will determine whether Britain remains a sovereign nation with global influence or becomes a forgotten island clinging to memories of empire. King Charles reportedly convened an emergency Privy Council meeting at Windsor Castle last night. The guest list included not just senior royals, but former prime ministers, military chiefs, and constitutional experts. What was discussed remains classified, but palace sources describe it as the most serious royal crisis since the abdication of Edward VIII in 1936. Some whisper that abdication was mentioned again, not by Charles but by advisors, worried the monarchy itself is being dragged into political warfare it cannot win. Others claim Charles is preparing to invoke reserve powers not used in over a century, powers that could force a general election and circumvent Starmer entirely. Could the king actually dissolve parliament? The constitutional scholars are divided, but the very fact that question is being asked shows how far Britain has fallen. At its center stands Keir Starmer, who bet everything on appeasing America and has lost everything because of it. He looks isolated, desperate, and completely out of his depth. His own party is turning against him. The British people have turned against him. And King Charles, the man he humiliated in front of the world, now holds all the cards. So here's the question that will define Britain's future. Did Biden just destroy the special relationship forever? Or did Starmer destroy it by refusing to defend British sovereignty when it mattered most? And here's the bigger question. Does King Charles have the power and the will to remove a prime minister who betrayed his nation? What do you think happens next? Does Starmer survive this week or is he finished? Does Charles stay silent or does he fight back? And could Nigel Farage actually become the next Prime Minister of Britain? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one because this isn't just politics anymore. This is Britain's future hanging in the balance. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in Westminster right now. The mainstream media is already trying to bury this story, but we won't let them. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because what happens in the next 48 hours will be absolutely explosive. The next chapter of this constitutional crisis could change Britain forever, and you're not going to want to miss a single moment.